Hello and welcome back. In this last section, we're going to talk about Edward Tufte. Edward Tufte is a university professor with a background in statistics and political science. But more importantly than that, what he does is he talks about how to show information and how to show it appropriately. He's got 4 books out there: The Visual Display of Quantitative Information, which is about showing numbers; Envisioning Information, which is about showing things; Visual Explanation, about showing processes; and Beautiful Evidence, about how to make your arguments. These are actually great books. He publishes them himself. If you can get yourself a set of these, please do. I think you'll find them very interesting. If you're at all interested in this area of information architecture and information design and things like that, these are some books that you absolutely must have. You can also get them used off of Amazon and save yourself a bunch of money. So, again, these are the books that he's got. So, let's talk about a couple of the examples that he likes. These are his go-to examples when he talks about information architecture and information density and how information can be displayed. Now, we've seen this one before, the Menard representation of Napoleon's march to Russia and back, okay, and how he started with 442,000 and ended up with 10,000. And how you can see the population of his army, the numbers of his army dwindle. You can actually see on the way back, there is a river where he goes from 50,000 to 28,000. That's actually a very well-known historical event where a number of soldiers fell into the icy waters and to their deaths. Anyways, this is a representation. I'm not going to go into it in too much detail because we've already talked about it, but this is a representation that shows multiple dimensions of data, and it helps to paint the picture of what happened with Napoleon's army. This next one that we're going to talk about is also another well-known event. This was a cholera outbreak in London, and Dr. John Snow was treating the sick and dying. And he kept seeing a lot of recurrence in this one particular neighborhood. And so he began to plot the data. And as he plotted the data, and you'll see on this chart, this graphical representation, each black box represents a person who died in that area, in that region, or where they lived. And what you've got here is you've got a rudimentary histogram overlaid on a geographic space. And what he was able to find as you drill in is this became the basis for his evidence that the Broad Street water pump, which is right in the center here, right here, okay, that Broad Street water pump was the source of the contamination and the source of the cholera. He took the handle off the pump so that people couldn't pump water and stop the epidemic because he was able to look at the data differently. Another one, and there's a little bit of flux about this out in the literature, but another one is a discussion about the O-rings from the Challenger accident. Okay, the Challenger accident happened a number of years ago, where an O-ring failed, and because of that failure, we had a catastrophic fail of the Challenger, which led to the death of all the personnel on board. Now, the night before Challenger was due to take off, the engineers presented a diagram, presented this diagram to their to the management saying we should not take off tomorrow, okay? Because look at the history of O-ring failures, and they believed that there was going to be more O-ring failures. Now, what you've got here is you've got a representation of each of the fuel cells and which O-ring failed, and from which launch and at what temperature. There was a series of charts like this. Now, what this didn't show was, while it was kind of interesting and, it had what Tufte would call chart junk, and I welcome you to look that up. What it didn't show was it didn't show the times of when those O-rings were damaged and the extent to which they were damaged. If you take that information and you plot it on a two-dimensional graph like this, as opposed to having all of the fuel cells and particular O-rings depicted as they had, then what you would see is you would see a trend in the line representing the failures of the O-rings. Now, the temperatures, they had launched down to temperatures of 50 degrees, and they saw they saw high propensity of O-ring failures at 50 degrees and at 55 degrees, and it went down as the temperature went up. Okay, so what you see is as the temperature goes down, there is an increased percentage or an increased propensity for O-ring failure. Now, they launched at 26 degrees, between 26 and 29 degrees. That was the coldest that they've ever launched. Had they shown a graph like this, I think the results would have been very different. I don't think we would have launched. And it goes directly to the point of, not only do you have to provide your data, and this is Tufte's argument as well, but not only do you have to provide your data at the right time, at the right density, in order to drive the right decisions, but you have to provide it in a way that it is consumable and it illustrates the problem. And that's not what had happened. Tufte is also known for his hatred of PowerPoint, and to go into this, basically Tufte's view is that PowerPoint dumbs down our ability to consume highly dense information. Okay, and I'll leave this to you to read because it's separate from what we're studying here a little bit, but I'll read you to take a look at it and see if you agree with it. Anyways, to finish up on this, get his books if you can and take a read through them. I think you will find them to be great additions to your library. Thank you very much.